Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here with you on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, racing Ron Mons, and in the production carrier, our friend and colleague, Joshua Wilkie, and the star of today's show, of course, the Radical SR10, 425 horsepower, only 725 kilos, no traction control, and no anti-lock brakes. So with all that power and no electronic nannies, these cars can be a handful, but mastery of the SR10 will make you better at every car that you drive. And folks, we are showing the top split of the public server here, 2100 GMT Friday, as we do every week. So this is not a private event, not a league event. If you would like to try your hand with these fantastic radicals, go ahead and show up, sign up, and if you make the top split, you will appear here with us on Apex Racing TV. The season, of course, winding down, but next week will be the season finale at Nürburgring. So if you'd like to give these little monsters a shot, well, no better place than the green hell to do that. But here we are, week 11. We are at Sebring. Began life as Hendricks Army Airfield during World War II from 41 to 46. And when World War II ends, gearheads do what gearheads will do. When they see miles and miles of unused tarmac, they create a racetrack. The guilty party here, an engineer by the name of Alec Ullman, who wanted to build an American rival to Cirque de la Sarthe. First endurance race was held here in 1950, and since then Sebring has played host to Formula One, the WEC, IMSA, Trans Am, and many more. Today's configuration, 3.7 miles, just over 6 clicks, 17 corners, with a record of 141.8, set in 2019 by Kobayashi in a Toyota LMP1. And Ron, who can forget the tremendous race that we had last season? It was week 10, I believe, and a fantastic last lap pass by James Berry to take the checker, and we're gonna just relive that with you real briefly right now. And English is the same, I know that much. And here we are back to Berry and Perez coming into Le Mans for the last time. And look at that gap, folks. It is 0.2, 0.3, well within drafting position. And what is Perez going to do? I don't think that there's anything he can do. Watch that gap drop, 0.1. It's under 0.1 now. Perez will try to cover the inside, and Berry says, you can't cover me out of the inside. See you later. Stuffed it down the inside of Sunset, and it is over. Berry has won this one. Oh, my goodness. Who could have seen that coming? Well, I did. And, and Barry takes it. Barry for Perez from Iani.
And I'll tell you what, JR, looking at that fantastic finish, if you take a look at the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a little name there on the left-hand side. A certain Mr. Mons running down in 12th in that race, 33 seconds off the lead. Didn't get to see that with my own two eyes. However, I certainly heard about it waiting in the interview waiting area after that broadcast was done. James Barry, always an incredibly quick driver in these Radical SR10s, and he's proving that right now in this qualifying session, currently second to this man with a name that I fear pronunciating, otherwise I'm absolutely going to butcher it. The driver of the number 5 car from Norway, currently sneaking on to the pole at 155.170, but Barry's still living up to expectations and running at the north end of the field. The real question is, JR, will he be able to snatch the provisional pole?
Yeah, and still a little bit time left in qualifying, but that almost breaking into the 134s by Matheson there. That is absolutely cooking, Ron. And an interesting feature of tonight's race, of course, as you can see, we'll take the checkered or the green flag at sunset as we roll here into Sunset Bend. You can see where it got that name from, but these Radicals will be wheeling around here in the dark. The benefit to that is cooler track temperatures and higher grip, and this dark track can cause some problems for some of these drivers, though. So that is kind of throwing a wild card into this one that could make this race even more interesting than past races at Sebring have been. So what are you looking for out of these drivers tonight?
Well, at this point, I'm looking for these drivers to try and keep it calm, cool, and collected. I'm harkening my mind back a couple of seasons ago, the last time we saw a Sebring race here with the Radical Esports Cup under the lights. A lot of drivers started to crack, and they also felt the burn or lack thereof with some very cold tires. Of course, tire temperatures, a big factor in these Radical SR10 races. That's going to be a big thing to keep our eyes on, but as this qualifying session is slowly drawing to a close, Angvik at the north end of the field improving his time to go to a 154.7. So JR, as much as I'm looking at the tire temperatures, I'm also looking at the newcomer being hot in this qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely. That is nuts. A couple of our normal frequent flyers that we see at the pointy end of these field. There's Barry, there's Sanchez, there's Heinz Braun, Sorensen, Gonzaga, all up there in the top 5 or 6. But yeah, this newcomer Matheson has put down a heater there, 154.7. And yeah, as you point out, Ron, something to keep in mind is, it does take some time for these tires to get hot in these Radicals, and frankly, during the 3 laps they have in qualifying, the tires never really reach optimal temp. So we're dipping into the 154s now. It is certainly conceivable that we're going to see 153s by the time under race conditions by the time this one is over, which is absolutely cruising. And some fantastic scenes here at Sebring. It is such a thrill to drive these Radicals through turn 1, nearly flat, just a tiny lift to get the nose to tuck in, and then you're back hard on the power. So you really beat the car around turn 1, really beat it around Sunset, and it's super fun, the mechanical grip and the downforce generated by these Radicals. So we are going to see a fantastic race today. I know that the drivers are going to have fun out here, and folks, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have fun as well. And there is your starting grid, and we will run through that with you now. And there is Magnuson is what's showing on my side timing tower here, and the pole next to James Barry. Kettle Larson will line up next to Sanchez in row 2, then Heinz Braun next to Sorensen, Jorge Gonzaga next to Gordon Hauge, Andreas Friedrich next to Sali Reitinen in row 5, Kyriakopoulos in P11 next to James McIntosh. And as we scroll that screen, we'll have Adrian Fernandez next to Anthony Stella, followed by Rolliston Gralewski. That's a new name for me. Paiva Magruder, Apex Racing TV's own Avery McDonald there from Asylum Racing, representing back there in P19. Jorge Ortiz in P20. Roca and Ruddock will round out your field. Big field today, only one split, 22 cars. And as I say, we are on the clock now. We should, looks like there's about a minute left and a couple people hanging back and not getting on the grid. So we're waiting for Sanchez, Kyriakopoulos, and a couple others to get out here on the grid, and we should see the lights here shortly. And remember, folks, as you see, this is a standing start race. There is no warm-up lap, and we're going to start without traction control with 450 horsepower on ice-cold tires and make that mad dash into the bumpy turn 1 at Sebring. So it can be a challenge to get these cars off the line clean. That is going to be the first job of these drivers, to get these cars moving and to get lined up and get through turn 1 clean. We're going to see some side-by-side action there into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and might even see a little side-by-side into the hairpin the first time around. And here we are. Let's see. Looks like yeah, we're with Matheson now, looking back. So lights are on, and Matheson is there to your right in the number 5 car. He will have the inside line into turn 1, and we are green. Looks like a pretty solid start for the front runners, although there's a little kerfuffle in the back. Car facing the wrong direction, but up front it's Matheson from Barry. Franco Sanchez has jumped Larson. So has Heinz Braun. Kettle Larson losing a couple of positions here as we go 2 and 3 wide through turn 1 for the first time. And there is an off. There is an off. Who was that? That was Braun getting a little squirrely there. He may have been too hard into the throttle coming out of turn 1. Don't know if he had help or not. There is another spinner as we go through the 3, 4, 5 complex. And my goodness, Ron, this one's starting messy.
We've already seen a whole lot of drama, and they haven't even made their way into the hairpin of turn number 7. Lots of drivers maybe going to try and size up a move here heading into this corner. At the very beginning of the race, you see some side-by-side action involving Andres Friedrich in that number 1 car. You can see that single filing out, about to head through Fangio of 8 and 9 right now. But 3 incidents striking these drivers already. We saw an incident with Gordon Haug. That was coming out of turn number 3, heading through 4. That's where that incident happened. We also had that off for Heinz Braun heading into turn number 3. That was near disaster for the German. And we also had that opening start schmozzle. That was Randy Magruder that actually hit the wall and was stopped sideways on that start finish straightaway at the very beginning of the race. Not even halfway through this first lap, JR, and the field is spread out quite a lot, with Ruddock down in 20th, already being 1 lap down, possibly not taking the start. McIntosh is also into the pits as well, so possibly an issue for the Scotsman. But outside of those 3 at the tail end of the field, Magruder in 19th is their last place runner, currently still on the lead lap, taking the start as normal, 19 seconds back. So early on into this race, and the field's already quite spread out.
Yeah, crazy start here. Meanwhile, up front, things pretty stable. That's Matheson from Barry from Sanchez. And you saw Matheson on the hanger straight there, putting a little weave on. Of course, the slipstream effect of these radicals, quite powerful. And there I see, looks like Larson's trying to sneak by his teammate and countryman Sorensen. They're going to enter turn 1 side by side. And we'll see if Larson can finish this pass here on the entry to turn 3, and it looks like he won't. So it's going to remain Sorensen from Larson. But up front again, it's Angvik, Barry from Sanchez from Sorensen from Larson is your top 5. Barry hanging with Matheson there in P1. That gap still well within drafting range. Barry wants to stay with him throughout the course of this lap so that when they get back on that hanger straight, he can take advantage of that draft and maybe get a move done like you saw from that in that replay from last season. Pretty messy start so far, but these drivers are going to get into their rhythm, taking a couple toes, and we're very early in this one, only lap 2 of 13.
And some drivers are still feeling quite racy, and this is it right here. Heinz Braun with a beautiful view of this fight between Kyriakopoulos and Stella heading into turn number 10. They're side by side now, running their way around 11, and Kyriakopoulos is going to get that move done. Very nicely played from the driver from Switzerland, but you can see Heinz Braun dipping a wheel down the inside, heading into Tower Bend, and he gets it done to slip his way up into P9 in front of Stella, who's dropping back a little bit, now losing 2 spots in the span of barely any time at all. And now the hometown hero George Ortiz looking to get a move done on him as well to relegate him down to 11th. Believe me, from my experience driving here last season, going side by side heading through that section usually ends in some sort of disaster. I got a major hip check there going side by side, but thankfully those drivers make it through clean, and now Ortiz with a beautiful run on Braun going down the Ullman straightaway.
Man, Stella, the falling star there. First of all, the epic pass on the outside into Cunningham by Kyriakopoulos. Then Braun follows him through. Then Ortiz muscles his way through on the approach to Le Mans. And Stella absolutely getting worked on that one. And Ron, look at Jorge Ortiz. He is now up 11 positions all the way up into P9. And we're looking forward, actually riding with him now as he looks forward at Ortiz and Heinz Braun, and some very aggressive driving by Stella here, and you're seeing it pay off in a way, but certainly Ortiz is setting the bar for the hard charger right now, up 10. Holy cow.
And going back to my experience running this race one season ago, albeit in the day rather than the night, this is a dangerous spot for these drivers as side by side heading into turn number 10 is Ortiz and Braun. Braun taking an aggressive line and getting a hip check from right behind. That was a bump and run maneuver that Stella tried to pull off on Braun. Heading through the hairpin, it wasn't successful. Maybe picked up a teeny tiny bit of front end damage, but Ortiz and Braun battling tooth and nail now side by side heading into Cunningham of turn number 10. Ortiz is going to hold off that challenge to remain in P9. But getting back to the point I was going to mention a few moments ago, JR, this is a really tricky spot for these drivers to be in terms of this race, because now, of course, a qualifying session, only 2 laps. Now they're getting to lap 3, and these cars are feeling better than they did in the qualifying session earlier, but they're still not driving good at all. They're starting to feel the burn, and they're starting to try and risk it a little bit more as Braun and Ortiz going side by side heading into turn number 15, with Heinz Braun now getting that move done to slip his way back into 9th, but side by side Ortiz coming back on him heading through Le Mans, and he's going to get that move done with Stella and Reinen now battling right behind. And look at the man weaving going down the straight.
Wow, fantastic stuff between Ortiz and Braun, and Braun has developed quite a reputation as a defender, and Ortiz not intimidated. He's sticking that radical down the inside before Braun can cover. Braun usually fairly aggressively covers that inside, but Braun heading down the front straightaway is going to have the draft. Look at that slipstream going to work as Ortiz again will try to cover the inside. They go into turn 1 side by side. Braun is going to be in a position to beat Ortiz to the entry to turn 3 maybe here, Ron, but man, some fantastic driving, great car control. And folks, to drive these cars on this bumpy track with no anti-lock brakes and to do some of this threshold braking like into the hairpin that we're about to see here, these guys really showing their stuff and knowing how to wheel these SR10s.
From my experience just one season ago, it is incredibly difficult trying to get these cars wound up heading into these corners, but still leads these drivers to try and go for some moves. Look at Stella trying to sweep around the outside of Reiten, and this is a battle for the drivers running in P11 and P12. They're starting to lose touch with Braun and Ortiz a little bit farther up the road. Those two are starting to pull away, and they're side by side now heading into Cunningham. Beautiful camera angle, Josh. Is it going to be side by side? Ortiz stuck on that outside line. Braun going to lose that spot with Stella getting the move done on Reinen to slip his way up into P11, but these drivers, they're getting more and more comfortable. Some would say too comfortable, as Heinz Braun has a moment heading into Tower Bend, nearly running into the back of Ortiz, and he's going to lose out on a whole lot of time. Got a move put on him by Stella and Reinen, who just slipped by and pick up the pieces, and Adrian Fernandez running in 13th, the American, who's a fixture in the Radical Americas Championship here on Apex Racing TV. He's running down in 13th and only about a half a second off of Heinz Braun now, so that could be another position lost to Braun in the not too distant future. Palvia a little bit farther in the back, not probably going to be involved in this fight in the near future, but these drivers covered by barely any air. I'm sure at this point though, Ortiz is very happy the fact he has this racetrack effectively all to himself after that moment for Braun.
Yeah, and man, I'll tell you, look at these guys, Ron, and this is one of the beautiful things about these radical races. You could be looking at the front of the field, you could be looking at the back of the field, or you could be looking as we are here at 9, 10, 11, and 12. These guys are fighting like they're fighting for the championship right now, and they're going to continue fighting throughout this race, and that is just the quality of racing that we've been getting here in the Radical Esports Cup. Absolutely fantastic stuff here between these drivers, using the draft, defending, fighting, and swapping positions on almost every lap. Really outstanding stuff, and my goodness, in the meantime, time. Look at Matheson. He has pulled a 2-second gap on James Berry, and that is a phrase that is not uttered in this booth during a Radical Esports Cup race very often. Berry, a very fast, reliably fast and consistent driver, and Matheson absolutely driving away now, 2-second gap. And he was able to tow Berry with him for a while, and the result of that is Berry has another 1.7-second gap back to Sanchez. So those two now on an island, while we got Sanchez from Sorensen, from Larson, from Friedrich, from Jorge Gonzaga. That's 3 through 7 now trained up here, as these cars tend to do any kind of straightaway. These Radicals will kind of suck up to each other due to that slipstream. These little trains will form, but that is one of the things that really leads to some outstanding racing and a beautiful overhead shot here of Sebring, of the cars proceeding through the darkness down the hangar straight and heading into the sunset bend to commence lap 6 of 13. And great racing so far today.
As the sun has come down, the drivers are starting to dance the night away, and you can see the stream of headlights rounding their way around the final corner of Sunset Bend, which is a real trouble spot in these Radical SR10s, but all the drivers have negotiated it beautifully so far in this race, and Vic Matheson is still continuing to grow that lead. And look at this fight with another driver from Norway. That's Lasse Sorensen in the 6 car, trying to battle with Sanchez heading into turn number 3. He's going to get that move done to move up into the final podium position. But you've also got the likes of Kettle Larson and Andre Friedrich a little bit farther behind. They want to pick up the pieces if these drivers come to blows, but these drivers are starting to get a bit more comfortable in their race cars. The lap 3 to 4 range is usually the big trouble spot, but these drivers have negotiated that now, and then maybe the trouble spot heading into the hairpin as Lasse Sorensen spins off the front of Franco Sanchez's car with an aggressive blocking maneuver heading into the hairpin. Two drivers fighting for the same piece of real estate. JR ends in tears.
Oh boy, and there is a somewhat salty exchange happening over iRacing comms right now, and I may need to see that again. It kind of had the flavor of a pit maneuver, but Sorensen may have moved over into Sanchez there, and it had been Sorensen from Sanchez, from Larson, with Sanchez being the meat in the sandwich between those two teammates. And here it is, we're going to see it again, and you'll see Sorensen covering the inside, and yeah, he does move over, and you got to wonder what kind of spotter call he was getting in his helmet when he decided to try to put the squeeze over to the left, and he may have turned himself there on Sanchez, and that is still being discussed over iRacing comms.
The big thing when it comes to an incident like that, JR, is just the location of the incident itself. That hairpin, these Radical SR10s are approaching that corner pretty much at complete terminal velocity, so the variance in the braking zones and where you're getting on that brake pedal is huge. We're seeing some side-by-side action here with Ryan and Ortiz heading around the final corner of Sunset Bend. It looks like Ortiz is going to hold off that spot for now. However, Ryan is going to have that drift with Heinz Braun right behind, looking to pick up the pieces if these drivers come to blows. Look at Heinz Braun being able to recover so much time after that mistake not terribly long ago. He has gotten back involved in this fight, last time by a full second quicker than Ortiz and a half a second quicker than Sally Wrighton in a P10. So the driver that's now down 6 spots from where he started in this race, looking to displace Ryan, and who's remained in that P10 spot, and Ortiz, who's cut his way through the field like a hot knife through butter so far in the 7 laps of this 13 lap affair here at Sebring. But getting back and talking about that incident involving Franco Sanchez and Lasse Sorensen, actually never mind Ortiz and Ryan trying to play me like a fiddle and go side by side heading into the hairpin. Ortiz going to hold off for now, but these two drivers battling as hard as they are, I don't have a good feeling about them making it to the checkered flag clean. But finally, to round off the point I was going to make about Sanchez, heading into a corner like that, the braking zone is huge. You're approaching that corner at terminal velocity. Really, it is the heaviest braking zone around this entire lap at Sebring. So the big variance in braking zones could be the reason why that happened. Maybe Sanchez just braking a little bit later than Lasse Sorensen did. Sorensen thinking Sanchez was just going to drop back a little bit and decide to slip in front. That's what I think could have happened either way. Lasse Sorensen will probably be kicking himself after that mistake as Reinen continues to battle with Ortiz.
Yeah, really great stuff here as Yeah, we're watching Ortiz, Reitinen, and Braun now. Again, we're back to that 9, 10, and 11, and these guys fighting for that P9 like it is P1. And watch that slipstream come into effect here. We are on the pit straightaway, and oh my goodness, really aggressive defense. And oh my goodness, that that was the hanger straight, and Ortiz may be getting a visit from the stewards after that. There is no doubt that was blocking. And Ron, I think you're right. Things are going to come to blows here. Ortiz looks like he's holding up traffic. And after that heavy blocking maneuver, the cars behind him might be running out of patience in the near future.
I remember one season ago being in this race and seeing some drivers do some ballet maneuvers going down the back straightaway, trying to break that slipstream, and I just got flashbacks to that. And I'll tell you what, from my perspective, it was also a battle right outside the top 10, mind you. I was thinking, seeing that blocking maneuver, that, okay, well, I'm going to gain 2 spots here just because of all the chaos going on. And look at this, that's Gordon Haug still out there on the racetrack with a missing front bumper. He is going this race blind. Maybe the sneak attack maneuver, possibly to try and get a move done. Oh, actually, no, it wouldn't be a move done. It would be regaining of the position as Apex Racing TV Zone. Avery McDonald got past the damaged car of Gordon Haug to slip his way up another spot. And here's a replay of the drama that happened with Haug that took off his front bumper at the very beginning of the race. Got all sorts of squirrely coming out of 3, lost it through 4, and that was actually Ortiz that got a piece of that. I think David Ralston was actually another driver who was spinning throughout that shot, but Ortiz was a driver involved in that, so it just shows you how, I wouldn't say weird, but how temperamental the damage can be in these radical SR10s. Haug gets a bump and he loses a front bumper, which in these aero-sensitive SR10s, that not only reduces your downforce quite a lot, but it's also like you're dragging a parachute down the straightaways here. But then you've got Ortiz, and he's still running strongly in P9. Actually, no, make that P10 as Ryan and him are going side by side yet again.
Yeah, and that radical of Hauge not happy, you're right, about the arrow. And there's a turn, there is a turn. Oh my goodness. And that is going to be Reitinen, who got bitten by those bumps in Sunset. You can't be complacent there. You always have to be aware. These radicals don't really enjoy banging and bouncing, but there's really no way to avoid those bumps in Sunset. You got to be ready to catch it. And Reitinen caught out there, will ride along with him, takes the wide line and gets in the very bumpy stuff on the left there. Nothing he could do. Car snaps, and he is now out of that race. And who were we looking at there? That was now I'm looking. Yeah. Oh, I completely lost track of what's going on. And meanwhile, we're back with Sanchez, Larson, and Friedrich as those cars have trained up, and there is 0.6 seconds between those guys as they are all fighting for that last step on the podium.
Oh, this is a hornet's nest for that final podium spot, and with only about 4 laps left to go, JR, I'm sure this race is going to be really aggressive, but look at that pack right behind. You've got the fight between Sorensen, Gonzaga, and Kyriakopoulos. That's another triplet of cars battling for P6, P7, and P8 respectively, as this man, Angvik Matheson, he is just pulled away. He is checked out of this race, pulling a 4.5 second gap over James Barry, which, considering that Barry is one of the fastest drivers in this series, and also the series champion, I believe, from this official season here for season 3 of 2024. The fact he could pull a 4.5 second gap over one of the best in the business really is impressive for Matheson. It will be interesting to see if he shows up for the next race of the season at the Nordschleife in only 1 week's time here on Apex Racing TV. But switching our attention back to this fight between Lasse Sorensen and Frieder. Actually, no, that's Gonzaga that he's going side by side with Kyriakopoulos in tow. You can see some mad weaving and some attempts to break the slipstream heading down that start finish straightaway. Gonzaga doing anything in his power to try and claim that P6 spot from Lasse Sorensen, who is a man on a mission and nearly making contact. Heading into turn number 3, these drivers still battling tooth and nail for this position. Lasse Sorensen, he's not very happy. He thought that he had a very good shot to finish on the podium in this race, and if that incident didn't happen between himself and Sanchez, he probably would have been. I don't think he's happy with how things have gone in this race, and he really doesn't want to lose another spot, but he's getting getting deja vu with Jorge Gonzaga trying to sweep around the outside, heading into the hairpin. The Portuguese driver is not going to be close enough, but these two drivers, you could cover them all with a blanket, and Kyriakopoulos is smelling blood in the water as well.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And Gonzaga is smelling that blood because Sorensen is all over the track. You saw him to have a big slide there in Sunset. Was lucky to keep that one out of the wall. And you slide around these cars too much, those tires temps go up and you immediately lose traction. And Gonzaga, able to take advantage of that, has gotten past Sorensen. Gonzaga's teammate now, Kyriakopoulos, coming up behind Sorensen. And again, Sorensen really fighting that radical, sliding around a little bit too much. And the more you slide, the less grip you have. And Kyriakopoulos probably likes his chances to get past Sorensen on this lap.
And one thing we got to keep in mind when it comes to these drivers is how well have they treated their tires. Of course, the low temperatures here under the lights at Sebring will create less temperamental conditions for the tires, but that's still a big factor. Side by side, Sorensen and Gonzaga. Sorensen going to get that move done to hold on to P6. Gonzaga, he is fighting tooth and nail to try and grab that spot from him. And Kyriakopoulos, you really need to pay attention to him as well. Gonzaga pulling out of the slipstream. They're going to be side by side heading into turn number 1. Sorensen on the inside. Gonzaga going to drop back, maybe trying to consolidate the exit. Sorensen runs wide and he's going to maybe lose that spot. They're going to be side by side. Gonzaga is actually going to clear him before they even think about getting on the brakes into turn number 3. Jorge Gonzaga capitalizing on yet another mistake from Lasse Sorensen to move up another spot. Some patient driving behind the wheel of that car in P number 6. The Portuguese driver putting on a very good show, but right now he's going to have to defend for his life with Sorensen looking to get that move done back around the outside, heading into the hairpin. They're going to be side by side. Hopefully they're not going to make contact. Otherwise, Dennis Kyriakopoulos, he's going to be the one to capitalize. Those drivers are sliding out of the corners. They are feeling really, really racy and really, really aggressive at the same time. But if they be a bit too aggressive, it's going to end really, really badly. Gonzaga side by side with Sorensen. Kyriakopoulos having a fantastic view of this battle. I think he's enjoying this fight, and he doesn't want to get involved in it, mainly because he enjoys the view, and he also will enjoy the view if these two drivers go off the track in a cloud of carbon fiber and steam, which, considering how hard they've been racing, I wouldn't entirely rule out, JR.
Yeah, crazy stuff here. And Sorensen just beating that radical to death. You watch him take that wide entry and take that wide line through Sunset, sliding it all the way up to the wall on every lap. And his tires are going off, Ron. And it's lap 11 of 13. That's going to give us 2 left after they cross the line this time. But I mean, what a fight, and what great car control and great trust watching these drivers go side by side through multiple corners here. But I really can't imagine Sorensen is going to be able to hold off Gonzaga and Kyriakopoulos if he keeps flogging that radical as mercilessly as he has been.
Well, I think here in PA, we'd call this an Amish barn burner. You raise a barn in the morning and then you set fire to it in the afternoon. It has been incredibly intense up and down the field, and this fight between Sorensen and Gonzaga is still heating up. You could see pace-wise, all 3 of these drivers were pretty evenly matched, with Kyriakopoulos actually being the fastest of that trio. But right now, Sorensen and Gonzaga pretty evenly matched pace-wise, only 0.02 of a second separating those two drivers last time by. Angvik still holding on to that fastest lap of the race. You can see he's pretty much an entirely different zip code lap time wise, with these drivers tracking in the 144s and 145s. And you can see some defensive maneuvers from Lasse Sorensen. He doesn't want to risk that too hard, though, considering what happened to him earlier on in this race when he was battling with Sanchez. I don't think he wants to pull off another block heading into the hairpin. Otherwise, it's going to end in him getting turned yet again. But Gonzaga maybe trying to size up a move in the not too distant future, not heading into Cunningham of turn number 10, but he is still close and within striking distance. And if he doesn't force the issue here in the not too distant future, we may see the likes of Dennis Kyriakopoulos get involved in that fight, as we're taking a look at a replay of a overtake from Avery McDonald getting past the wounded SR10 of Gordon Haug down that start finish straight away. Can't even see Haug once Avery McDonald gets in front of him. Shows you how dark it is at Sebring for this race. But getting back to that, actually, oh my God, I think you can actually see the bumper flying off of his car. That's, Don't really know what I'm seeing. His bumper flew off heading through sunset, but then magically reappeared heading down the start-finish straightaway. Some voodoo trickery going on here at Sebring as the battle continues.
Yeah, and I think I just saw a change of position there between Larson and Sanchez, or they're just the timing tower is having them blink back and forth because they're running side by side now. That is Sanchez from Larson from Friedrich, and Friedrich may be looking good here on the inside line into turn 3. No, he thinks better of it as Larson moves over to cover, but Sanchez making some stuff happen here as he clings to that final step on the podium. And how close is he to Barry? About 2 seconds gap ahead to Barry. That must be a lap car immediately ahead of him. Or no, that is James Barry. Gosh, that sure doesn't look like 2 seconds to me, but you know. I'm sitting here. I'm not out there driving. But, yeah, Ron, meanwhile, look at Matheson up front. 6.2 seconds now. And he may be a Sebring specialist, but he is putting on a clinic here. His best lap of 154.7. 0.8 faster than the P2 driver, James Barry. And as we said, people don't drive away from Barry often.
Yeah, it is a ridiculous advantage that he's been able to grow so far in this race. 6.4 seconds is insane. And to do it with James Barry in tow as well. For a race with Barry where he hasn't made any sort of mistakes, I think it's been a fairly clean afternoon for James Barry, actually an evening for him in the UK. That is just mightily impressive from Matheson. He has only one more corner left to go to seal the deal on what will be a dominant drive and what we believe is also his debut here in the Radical Esports Cup on Apex Racing TV. One more corner and then he's home clean.
Yeah, absolutely. So a dominant performance by Matheson, and Barry is going to roll through for an easy P2. Nobody near him, and curious to see what is going to happen with that P3. It is Sanchez from Larson from Friedrich, and about 1 second separating those cars. And watching now, Kiriakopoulos is sniffing around the outside of Gonzaga here, coming through Sunset. It's not going to be able to get anything done, I don't believe. So that one is going to finish Sorensen, Gonzaga, Kiriakopoulos. Sanchez hangs on to P3, and oh my goodness. And I'll tell you what, the laughter and congratulations going on in iRacing comms right now. These drivers have enjoyed this race just as much as we have enjoyed watching it. It was an absolute barn burner. Sebring not disappointing, and really hoping that it makes it back onto the schedule next season run. This is really great stuff here.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic from start to finish. We also saw a photo finish between Heinz Braun and Sally Wrighton, and I think it was only 0.06 of a second separating those two coming to the line after 26 minutes of racing action here from the Radical Esports Cup at Sebring. It was a fantastic show that we just had here on Apex Racing TV. I'm looking through the schedule for next season. The good news for you, JR, is that for next season on the Radical Esports Cup schedule, Sebring will be making a return. I think we'll probably touch on that in a little bit, considering that this is the second to last broadcast from Season 3 of 2024. But some awesome stuff from start to finish. Lots of drivers just putting on a clinic. Lots of drivers also just battling tooth and nail from start to finish. It was an awesome race all around. And I think we've got one more before this season comes to a close. And we've got the Nordschleife, the Green Hell. That is that final race. And I don't know about you, JR, but I think this race and the action that we just saw is getting me even more excited for what the Green Hell is going to host in 1 week's time.
Yeah, absolutely. Outstanding stuff. And tip of the hat and well-deserved kudos to the Radical Racing community. This is a very tight-knit community, and they have worked hard to put together a schedule that attracts a good field of high-quality drivers, and they have worked hard to build their camaraderie and trust and pace, and you really see some outstanding racing here in the Radical Esports Cup. It gets better and better week after week. I hope to be back here with you next season to take in more of this. It has truly been outstanding, but let's go ahead and get those final results up for you, and Ron will run through those with you here as we conclude the broadcast today. But man, oh man, fantastic stuff.
And in the end, it ended up being the driver from Norway, a name that I haven't seen before, but considering his performance, it'd be really interesting to see him back. Svengnung Einik, I probably killed that pronunciation. He ends up winning it 6.6 seconds in front of James Berry in P2. Franco Sanchez going to round out your podium in third. That's going to be Kettle Larson and Andres Friedrich running at the top 5. Lasse Sorensen, who despite finishing this race in P6, was probably hoping for some better things, got involved in an incident towards the middle part of this race with Franco Sanchez getting spun into the barrier, heading into the hairpin of turn number 7. He's going to end up in P6, and finishing in P7 is going to be the Portuguese driver of Jorge Gonzaga. That's going to be Dennis Kyriakopoulos in P8, Heinz Braun in 9th, Sally Wrighton going to finish this race in P10. That's going to be the American of Adrian Fernandez in P11, Connor Groluitsky in P number 12. That's going to be Anthony Stella in 13th, Pete Paiva in P number 14. That's going to be David Rolson in 15th, Avery McDonald in 16th, Apex Racing TV Zone. That's going to be Gordon Haugen 17th, ending this race with a damaged and battered Radical SR10. Caleb Ruddock going to end up in 28th. Randy Magruder going to end up in 19th after an incident towards the beginning of the race. George Ortiz ends up in 20th, so he fell out of this race towards the dying stages of it. Not sure what happened to the driver that was battling for a top 10 spot. He's going to end up in 20th. James McIntosh, the driver from Scotland, going to end up in 21st, and not taking the start is going to be the Brazilian driver of Marcelo Rocho, running out the 22 cars classified in this race. And JR, I think we've got the second place runner of James Berry waiting in the interview waiting area. Actually, I think he may have just walked out.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Beautiful timing.
As soon as you said his name, he disappeared, which is a little unusual. James usually likes to stop by and chat with us. He might have had a connection problem, so we'll keep an eye on that interview room and see if James is going to make it back. And there he is. I'll go ahead and bring him in, and your second place finisher today, James Berry. So James, this one turned into a little bit of a track day for you. You got through the heavy traffic of the first couple laps. We're able to catch a tow from Matheson for a few laps, and that pulled you away from the raging battle behind you between Sanchez, Larson, and Friedrich. But then Matheson kind of got away from you. So where'd that guy come from? He is a new name for us.
Yeah, actually, I said that to George, and he said that he used to drive the SR8, according to him. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, well, it makes sense. I saw he was doing races earlier, so I checked him out, and turns out he's like a pro racer, so no surprise he's super fast, but yeah, I couldn't keep up to him. I was just saying to George, I had such a boring race. I feel kind of bad going for the interview because I have nothing really to talk about, but no one else comes, so I also feel bad if no one comes for an interview. So I thought I'd drop in, say hello, and yeah, it was a pretty boring race for me.
Oh, absolutely, and we always appreciate you talking to you, James. So taking a look at the points, it looks like you have got it pretty much in the bag here, overall champion for season 3. But what are your thoughts looking forward to Nordschleife? You're looking forward to Green Hell?
Yeah, I don't know how much I'll be racing it because I'll be practicing for some other races, but Nordschleife was always, I don't actually like it as much as some people do because I feel like you just follow for the whole lap and then you overtake on the long straight and then you just follow again for the whole lap. You get like one overtaking opportunity every 7 minutes. So for me, I don't enjoy it that much. But yeah, let's see. Hopefully we can have a good broadcast there as well. Was it an entertaining race today?
Oh my goodness. Well, I know you like to sit down and watch them, but there was an epic raging battle for P3 through P5 and also about P9 through 12 with Bronze Reitinen. Fernandez was involved in that. Jorge and Kyriakopoulos. Yeah, it was an epic race. And I'm sorry that you were kind of on an island having a track day because there was action up and down the field and it was absolutely outstanding. But anyway, thank you so much, James, for stopping by. We always appreciate speaking with you. And that was your second place runner today, James Berry. And looking ahead, we are not just about these fantastic radicals here on Apex Racing TV. This weekend, we have got you covered with racing action on Sunday. Please join us for the Racing Unleashed GT3 series, as you see drivers flogging the fastest GT3 machinery in the world around Hockenheim. And don't forget to subscribe to Apex Racing TV and hit that notification icon so that you don't miss any of the action. And so, Ron, what are your thoughts looking forward to next week?
Oh, well, the Nordschleife is usually a fantastic show in these Radical SR10s. The finishes of those races are usually quite wild, and it's going to be a little bit different compared to what we saw one season ago. Harkening our minds back to that race last season, it was held under the lights while Sebring was in the daytime. Now it's pretty much the other way around, with Sebring under the lights and the Nordschleife in the daytime. So that is going to be a really good show. That finish is going to be intense, and it's also going to be a good opportunity for some drivers to get some experience for the Radical Americas and Radical European Championship, where that season is going to be drawing to a close in about a month and a half's time on October the 13th, streamed exclusively here on Apex Racing TV. But JR, the Nordschleife, always puts on a really good show in these Radical SR10s, avoiding the drama, avoiding the chaos, and really being there towards the end is going to be the main thing those drivers have on their agenda in 1 week's time. I think that is going to be a fantastic race, and one really fitting to round off a great season of racing action here from the Radical Esports Cup.
Yeah, I too right, Ron. And Jamie Berry is correct in the sense that it can be a little lead follow through some of the technical sessions, and then dive bombing down into the beginning of the lap after that long straightaway. But I actually think that's one of the things that makes it exciting. There's a certain pride and sense of accomplishment in being able to master the Nordschleife and put down fast laps consistently. And with the slipstream action with these Radicals, it is one of the few tracks where you absolutely hit terminal velocity in sixth gear and have to make decisions about braking and passing into a very slow corner. So it's kind of controlled chaos, I guess. But I would certainly encourage our viewers to come back and watch our season finale at the Nordschleife. It is going to be a good one. And thank you so much for joining us here today at Sebring. JR Gregory here for Race and Ron Mons, our producer Joshua Wilkie. Happy Friday and have a fantastic weekend.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.